Okay, so we are going to talk about, let me get to my presentation here. We're going to talk about behaviors. We talked about the why in our last little lecture video. This is going to be hopefully a little bit of how. Keeping in mind that the how you handle behaviors takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of just time to figure out how to do it and do it well. Um, One of the things that we did in our in-person class was this mindfulness wheel. This is something that you could use with your students. Once you've established the culture that you are looking for in your classroom, this is one of those things that can be extremely helpful, because you are looking at adding a simple structured sentence to provide information to a person who might be kind of stuck in their feeling. So, for example, you pick one of these emotions, which a lot of students wouldn't have an idea. And so we want to teach them how to name their emotions, because once I name it, it almost like helps me figure out what's my next steps. So I'm literally taking them from that emotional state of the brain to that cortex, so that we can actually make meaning of what's happening and reason through what's going on. So I might say, I feel nervous about my upcoming tests because I feel unprepared. Um, I could say, I feel discouraged about my classes because I'm not getting enough done. It could also say, I feel optimistic about this weekend because I'm spending time with my family. So, any of this, once you've established a healthy classroom culture, you could actually use this as a tool to gather information. If somebody's feeling discouraged in my class, I might follow up with them. Kindergartners could use this structure, 12th graders could use this structure. It's really, really flexible. Okay, we're going to get started, and I want to show you this. We're not necessarily talking about behavior as they relate to trauma. However, this like hierarchy that you can kind of see is really, really interesting. Typical development, which is most of your students well, a lot of your students don't have to spend very much time in that survival state. They get to spend a lot more time in cognition. Well, guess where learning happens? Like right up there at the top. That is that cortical area of your brain where you're making meaning and solving problems. If you have any kind of developmental trauma or like chronic stress in your life, mom and dad are fighting all the time, big sister is fighting with mom and dad all the time, like that kind of stuff can put a student into a survival state where they need a lot more help just knowing that they're safe. Now, remember, if I need lots of help knowing that I'm safe, I don't spend very much time in cognition, which is where most typical educational systems are targeting, that cognition area. Well, if I've had any kind of upset, even like I would say before I come to school, my triangle is flipped. I need a lot of time establishing that I'm safe, and then I need a lot of time establishing that people want me here. So my my triangle, our job is to kind of figure out how can we flip this triangle for a lot of students. It is not a 1 year process. It is a long con. You are working hard and you're going to make growth with your students, social, emotional, behavioral needs, and that is what your goal is. You are not going to take a highly dysregulated student and flip their triangle to make them completely compliant and wonderful to have in class, right? It doesn't work like that. We're talking about making incremental shifts, because as like the theory would be that then I pass you to the next grade level who has the same idea as I do, and they're going to do the next step. Does it always work like that? No, but you're going to do your very best with who you have in front of you. Okay, this is, I don't have an exact percentage. but I'm willing to bet, I don't know, a lot on this. This is a true statement. A huge percentage of your behaviors are handled before they even happen. So I am going to manage my behaviors by doing things that don't look like managing my behaviors. The first thing is relationships. I have to establish relationships before they're even in your class. Maybe when they're coming down the hall and you know that next year you might have them. I'm already working to figure out, like, pointing them out, making them feel like I see them. Next thing is my classroom culture. I want to make an environment where it is safe, where the people in my class feel like they have a voice, they feel like they're seen, and they know the structure. That last part is this rhythm that your brainstem needs. The routines are actually soothing for safety. So, where I have my agenda up, my daily, my weekly schedule looks the same, or as similar as it did to the last week. Every single time they come in, they know exactly what to do in the morning. If anything changes, I'm giving lots of notice and like preparation for the change in the schedule or the routine to set up those brains who need to reestablish safety. So all of those things, this classroom management that we've been talking about, is ultimately about social emotional learning, and it's about managing behaviors in your classroom. So it's not nothing to have your environment feel like a safe place. It is absolutely not nothing. It's the most important to have connections and relationships with your students. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is attunement. Attunement is how every brain processes this environment and especially other people. It's the first way that we establish safety. So think about how we process our world around us through the senses. It is literally how we gather any information is through those five senses. That is all happening through this right brain processing. Your brain works from bottom to top, right to left. So I am in this perception stage or region of my brain. The right brain is all about, like, it's subjective. It's about how it feels or seems to me. It is not necessarily about facts. That's the left brain. Our job is to figure out how to integrate those two hemispheres. Left brain is very logical, linguistic. This is the ordered, time-bound part of our brain. We want to be able to take the information from the right brain and make meaning with the processes from the left brain. That's our job. In attunement, this like simple kind of practice is actually the most important thing. You do it all day long in every relationship, every time you see somebody. So let's say you walk up at a Starbucks and the person behind the counter doesn't even look at you. Immediately you're making meaning of what's happening just by the fact that they made eye contact or did not make eye contact with you. Let's say their facial expression was kind of like flat. They looked up. They might have like done a raised eyebrow, something like that. You knew immediately where they were at. It probably puts you on guard a little bit, like, ugh. You're not gonna feel like you're gonna welcome a or open up to this person. That's not how that interaction is going to go. Their tone of voice might be like sharp or short. Their posture may be a little bit like standoffish or closed. They might gesture with like some pointing or just like, especially nonverbals, like head movements are something we're scanning for all the time. Timing is like, they may say something immediately after, and the intensity is that it's short and curt. You're going to walk away from that little coffee purchasing experience like, sheesh, what is her problem, or what is wrong with her? Like, you're already making a judgment because you have previous experiences that are informing how you're processing that information. And this is literally how we gather information about whether I'm safe. Remember, we're starting from the bottom. In every information or every environment, your brain is saying, are we safe here? every single time. So attunement in the classroom looks like you walk in. A head tilt is actually something that says, I see you, and it's welcoming. Eyes, you know when you look at someone's eyes whether they are actually glad to see you or not. Their face, you don't have to be smiling, but a person is going to read your face and know whether or not they are safe in this interaction. Tone of voice for teachers is huge. We tend to, there's a way you can gather your class's attention without it sounding like you're going to rip someone's head off. Posture is another one of those things. Posture for me, especially in elementary school, where I might be taller than everybody, I have this power over even just like physical presence in the room. So if I need to have a conversation with somebody, I'm going to get down on their level, because I want to look as closely to eye as I can without them having to do that. Like, this is a power differential. If they're looking up at me, then I'm in charge. So keep that in mind. My gestures, I'm a gesturer. This is a big thing. When I start pointing, doing anything with these like sharp movements, that is telling my students something. If my gestures feel soft and welcoming, that's a different feeling. So all of these things my body is scanning for super quickly. They're all sensorial. Timing of when I say things. I maybe want to say something where I need to correct you, but if you're already upset, saying it to you right then is not going to be effective. Now, I might say it, but the most impactful way to handle that is I'm going to circle back, and when you are calm, then I will have a conversation with you. Then we'll talk about how we can make some meaning out of what just happened or solve a problem. But if you are already feeling not safe, then my timing is really important. The intensity. I might say something to the class like, I need your eyes. If I say it in a way that they hear the tone of my voice, my intensity might be louder or stronger, but my tone makes a difference. You will be able to see or hear by the intensity of my voice how I'm feeling about a situation. And whether you like it or not, your body is going, are we okay? That was a lot. Holy smokes, is she okay? Am I safe now? Like, people start looking around when that's not established. So keep that in mind. If teachers could nail attunement, and the ones who do are probably why you love to teach or you want to do this for other students, because they have this down. They feel safe, they feel inviting, and it is literally because the first impression that they give you is that they are an open, okay person to be around. So attunement is a big one for us as teachers. These 3 words are the most important words for your behavior ever. They literally talk about each stage of the brain or step of the brain. Rhythm is brainstem. My brain needs to have the consistency to know that it is okay, and that happens like in literal rhythm, the music, drum beating, foot walking, that like just that pounding through proprioception. It happens in like I'm relating. That's how I make connections with people. And then reason. This is where I'm actually in the highest part of my brain, and I am actually making meaning, and I'm understanding what's happening. This is where I make my apologies if there's any disconnection in the relationship. All right, let's talk about rhythm. A little bit we talked about already, but rhythm is not just the physical movement of your body, it is the predictability. So if my classroom has a rhythm and a flow to how it goes, that soothes a brain. They know what to expect. You come in, you do this, that's your morning routine. You put your backpack on the hook, you meet on the carpet. Like, there is this structure to what I'm doing. If you don't have a system for how you bring students into your classroom, how you start a lesson, how you end a lesson, it needs to be, not that it's monotonous, it just needs to be predictable, because that's what your brain is seeking. Like, do I understand the flow of this class? Can I get the rhythm, because once I have had that established, I don't have to spend so much energy scanning my environment, feeling like, is today going to be okay? I can literally look at the board and understand, oh, I know I can handle that because I handled it yesterday or I handled it 2 days ago. So I'm teaching the brain through my structures and systems to be calm. It can also look like, and this is when a student is elevated with a behavior where it's not typical or it's not socially acceptable. We had a rocking chair in our classroom. We had a Bosu ball that's like one of those half bubbles that you see at the gym. We had a basketball hoop. We had scooters. We had something you could spin in. We had a balance board, like it looks like a skateboard, but you can rock back and forth on it. We had a ton of tools because I want to give my students the opportunity to tell their brainstem, we're okay. Big behaviors are usually about an excess of energy. So I want to give them a way to get that energy out, that extra energy, or at least move it in a productive way so that we can move up the brain. Play is one of the easiest ways to do this. In fact, play is when we have two students who didn't get along and we've done rhythm and we've co-regulated with them. I'm listening to them, they're telling me what happened, and I'm just offering some empathy. Then a lot of times the way two students would reconnect with one another is they went and played, because play changes the chemicals in your brain. It's pretty amazing. And play is not just for kindergartners. Play is it has no respecter of age. It is actually one of your core circuits that are connected in your brainstem. Really, really, really important. It looks like we would play sometimes when a student would come in and they would be upset. We just had a ball and we would just be like, start tossing. If I toss a ball at you, you're going to catch it. So even if you don't want to play with me or you don't think you want to play with me, the first thing is that I, as the teacher, the person who holds the primary relationship to the student, is the one helping with the rhythm. So I'm going to be the one who helps calm you because we are the one who has the closest relationship. Bringing in, an officer who is in charge of campus or a counselor or somebody else makes a student not necessarily, like, they don't have the relationship there. So that trust and safety isn't always there, which in some cases can be activating. We don't want to make behavior worse by bringing in an unpredictable person. Is that always the case? No, I mean, sometimes you have to remove the student for the safety of themselves and everybody else. Like, that happens. But when you can, you should be the one providing the rhythm and the calm. Rhythm happens first. So this can be like, literally, I'll say, why don't you grab a basketball and we'll just shoot hoops. We're not talking about the problem. We're just shooting hoops, or we're doing something that I know that student can access. Like, if I have a friend in my class who is not going to get like any help out of shooting basketballs, so she doesn't have to love it, but that's not her jam, I'm not going to pick that. Maybe I'll sit by her while she rocks in the rocking chair. Or maybe I will be close. Proximity is the most important thing. Maybe I'll be close while she's listening to a song that helps calm her nervous system. That's the rhythm of what we're doing. And play is a way that we can really help access that. It seems counterintuitive. But what I mean by play is just this back and forth exchange between you and the person who's having the big behavior. By the way, a person who's in big behavior, whether they're shut down and they're unresponsive, hood up, or body is literally closing in on themselves, that's a sign that we're not safe. Or they're getting big, that's that fight or running flight response. I am not going to give them a lecture that will change the situation. That's why play is so great, because we're going to toss the ball. You're going to release some of that extra energy. We're going to go on a walk, and I'm not going to talk to you about what's upsetting you. I'm just going to let you be in the present. I'm going to try to bring you there. So we walk down the hall. The rhythm of walking is soothing to the brain. And I might just say, point out 3 things that are soft. And you'll be like, first, maybe unresponsive, and then you'll be like, oh, that person's coat. I'll be like, all right, great, 2 more. And so now I've actually taken your brain and I've moved you up a step. Maybe that person was calm, or that person was crying, and now they start to calm because they have something else to focus on. Then once they're calm, I'm going to offer some acknowledgement, and that's what's coming up next. This is just noticing. This is the next state of the brain. When I have gotten you to where you can actually like breathe, you're not doing any of those fight, flight, freeze behaviors, running, screaming, jumping, kicking, shutting down, we're going to relate. And I'm just going to notice. I might point it out to you like, man, you were swinging like crazy. And then I'm going to give them some information about it. Like, you seem really frustrated. You were wanting to be able to play longer on the playground. Or you got really big and your eyes, your face. I might show them with my own face. If it's a high school student, I might be like, did you notice, this is for my daughter, did you notice you were doing that neck thing? She always like gets frustrated and like stretches her neck back like that. You seem upset. You were hoping things would go different. You wanted me to say something else. I'm not offering a solution. I'm just giving them words for what just happened. This like script even is really helpful until you don't need it anymore. We literally, Beth and I would put this in our classroom until we didn't need it. You seem really upset. You were hoping it would go a different way. Most of the time they just want you to say, like, notice it and then just say, man, that's really hard. I'm sorry. That stinks. A lot of times that offers all they needed was just, do you see me? I'm upset. Do you see me in this state? And your answer should be, yes, I do see you. There's this serve and return is kind of what we've been talking about. So reason, because I have noticed and offered some just acknowledgement, most of the time kids just need to vent. Something happened, behaviors, communication, something happened to throw their system off, whether they didn't feel safe or they didn't feel connected. It usually has to do with those 2 questions. I'm not safe here, so I've got to protect myself. Or I'm risking disconnection and I'm going to fight to stay connected. Or I'm going to get big to stay connected. Or I'm going to get really emotional about the potential of being disconnected. It comes down to those 2 things. As the teacher, my job is to figure out where are we at, and then I'm going to move you up so that you can actually reflect on what is happening. Well, when I went out on the playground, they had destroyed our snowman, and we had been working really hard on that, and that felt like rude. It felt like discouraging. It felt disappointing. And I might offer those words, and then I'm going to say, okay, maybe now we get to go, you knew you only had 15 minutes with that snowman, and then another grade level comes out. Like, we can work through what happens. If I'm talking to a sophomore in high school, this reflection is like, your boyfriend didn't call because he was playing Minecraft. Maybe he just needed some time with his buddies, or they left you on open. They might be busy right now. But my timing on this is going to happen when they're actually in a state where they can hear me and make sense of what just happened. They can't offer empathy to someone else if they are not in this cortical area of their brain, because it's a higher state. I have to think about how someone else is feeling, make sense of it, and then figure out how I would feel. There's a ton of reflection in that, which means I don't usually do that when I'm just trying to stay alive or just trying to make sure that I belong to the group, right? That's why it's a prefrontal function. When you are making amends or you're reconnecting, and this is for the teacher too, if I get upset and I say something that is rude, then when the iron is cold, not when they're still upset, not when I'm still upset, I'm going to go and reconnect. You know, when I said that and I yelled at you, I think I might have embarrassed you in front of the class. I really apologize. And then I'm not going to you were making me really mad, or but you should have been sitting in your place. I try really hard not to do that. Just the apology, just the reconnection. Hey, I was pretty frustrated yesterday when I had already asked you to turn in your work and you didn't. The reason why I got frustrated is because I care. I want you to do well in this class. I didn't handle it the way I should have. So I want you to know that I apologize. I hope we can reconnect, or I hope that we can restore our relationship, however you want to say that. That's magic. Do you know how many adults don't apologize to students? Most of them. Most of them. But if you want to go back and re-establish a sense of safety, if you want to calm future potential behaviors, then that's the most important thing you can do. I, as the teacher, need to reconnect. I have had to apologize for other adults in the building too. Man, I'm sorry that the music teacher said that to you guys. That wasn't right. That must have been hard to hear. I just offer my noticings, my empathy, my calm, and then you don't have to store it as a safety memory anymore. Your brain goes, okay, and we let go. It doesn't necessarily mean I forget the situation. It means it doesn't get stored as a need to protect me next time. So really, really, really important. I know that you have probably a ton of scenarios. You've probably, as you've been in the classroom, started to watch big behaviors. Most teachers don't know how to handle big behaviors appropriately. I'm going to say that. Not all, but lots of them. Because we're coming at it from not a behavioral standpoint. We want to come at it from we're triggered, we feel disrespected. There's some shoulds about what being in a classroom looks like. It should look like this, it should not look like this. So those are really important things to consider. It's really important for you to consider, what are my triggers? If it's about respect, then any kind of disrespect is going to set me off. And then I have to be able to be calm to handle that situation. Right? I can't bring a student into calm if I'm not calm myself. That would be, not only is it completely contradictory, you physically can't do it. So hopefully this will be something that you can use. Keep in mind, this takes lots and lots and lots of practice, and it'll come.